So, hello, Maya.
Hi, Tatena.
I'm so happy that we have this opportunity to talk about integrative TA. And I was wondering, maybe you want to introduce yourself before
Mhm.
we start?
Yes, I'm Sedmak Cvelbar and I'm from Slovenia. I'm a PTSD in psychotherapy, and I work in my private practice for the last 10, 11 years. I should
Mm.
do the math. So it's quite a long time already.
Yeah, it's quite a long time. And we know each other even longer than that.
That's true.
Yeah, we were
That's
schoolmates a long time ago on our TA
true.
training. Yeah. And we are today because we have been learning something about this theory all those years ago,
Mm.
15 plus, about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But who will count? So Maya, what would you say, who are the presenters, the main presenters of integrative TA and how it all
Mm.
came about?
Yeah, I think that the main presenter is definitely Richard Erskine.
Mm.
I think that he is the one who is representing the integrative TA, but also, of course, you have also other people. So Rebecca Trautmann, it's
Mm.
also very important, and they both together wrote quite some important books. And Jeanette Morrison, okay, sorry.
It's
Um,
okay.
I I
I'm also
don't
not sure how it's pronounced.
I don't yeah. And it just like I'm sorry for mispronounce probably the name. And yes, the I say the core of integrative TA is that this integrating different approaches, different view, different theory, so that it's more forming a whole. It's like I really like the metaphor of blind people touching an elephant. And if you are touching just some parts, you cannot see the whole picture. The
Mm,
integrative TA is this that you want to see the whole picture.
mm,
So from one side, it's quite agnostic for example, of different techniques or different approaches because it's integrated what is actually working
mm.
in their way of our way of working as a psychotherapist.
Yes, I know that Richard Erskine was also studying Gestalt therapy,
Mhm.
so that he combined that part also in his approach. And I was always puzzling how he named it integrative TA, while TA itself, from the beginning, they were thinking, Byrne and others were thinking about it as integrative approach.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I actually have no idea why Erskine name it
Mm,
like that, but
mm,
I agree, and I think we can see the element of Gestalt and other approaches. Also, the early relationship with the mother and so on. You can see all that approaches in the integrative TA. So you can see it. Yeah, I agree with
mm.
you.
Yeah, I think the main thing he's putting in is the relationship
Mhm.
in a way of, as you said, mother and child relationship. So a therapist being there for the client um, to to offer him what he or she did not get
Yeah,
when he or she was a
yeah,
child.
yeah. The
Mm,
repertoire experience is very important
mm,
because Erskine or integrative TA, it's a lot. The psychopathology in itself, it's not a problem.
mm,
What we experience is the problems and difficulties in the relationships.
mm,
So we usually in therapy we want to do a repertory experience for the client so that they can take this experience outside. Yeah, I would say
mm,
in the real world.
mm. Yeah, so he's putting these relational needs in a focus of his work, I would
Yes.
say.
Yes, Yes.
Uh,
And we can see some of the relational needs are very similar of bare relational needs. And I think that some are actually more, more detailed and are different. And I think they can be very well combined together. And absolutely, we have these 8 relational needs in the integrative TA, and it's interesting to look and to think about how we, I think, as each person are, if we're having met these needs or not.
yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting concept to think about.
Mm.
So what other concept would you say was new to this in TA through this approach?
Good question. I would say, okay, very important concept, but it's not new. It's definitely the script system.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not new because we know that the script was already, Baron was mentioning script. Maybe what is a little bit different are two. One is the contact, when Erskine is talking about inner contact, so what is going in me.
Mm-hmm.
So the contact with my feelings, with my emotions, with my body, with my sensation, and the contact between the two of us. So the relational contact between the two persons. So
Mm-hmm.
this is something. And the other part that I think is very important is also the juxtaposition. The juxtaposition, it means that sometimes the client get exactly what they need, but it's too much for them. And because of that, sometimes they might withdraw from therapy. For my students, sometimes I explain that it's like for a person that who is starving and they don't have enough food. When they eat for the first time after long starving, this food might be too much. And they might feel bad and they might feel, even throw up or other problems, digestive problems, because their body is not used to food. And it's very similar what is happening with juxtaposition. When a person get, I would say, the love or the reparatory experience that they would actually deserve, sometimes is this too much and they cannot hold this positive feeling sometimes, or the positive feelings open up the realization how much they miss in their past, and then they just cannot hold that, and sometimes they stop therapy.
Mm. Yeah, and it's a very strong metaphor that you now offered for the juxtaposition. I think it also gave me a new clarity for this
Mm.
concept. And yeah, it makes perfectly sense. And it's usually connected also with empathy,
Mm.
to which he also put a lot of focus on.
Yes. Empathy and actually not judging, accepting the person as it is. And so, empathy, I really like what Erskine is saying, because sometimes we need to have empathy also and an understanding to the defense of the client. In the sense, the defense support the client to survive until now. So we need to have empathy, understanding, and I would say almost like, yes, disrespect also to the defense and to the client as whole, as a person. Yes, and I think this is rooted in the integrative TA.
Mm. Yeah. Let's check the visual I
Mhm.
shared you before we started. Um, yeah, you said the contact, which was from Gestalt taken,
Mhm.
and script system. It was not a new concept itself, but it was in a way additional value
Yes.
to the script theory, because through script system he is offering how we live script daily.
Yes. Yes. And I also like this visual of the script system because actually it contain, I would say, a lot of information. in the first part, we can also see the okay position, how I am with myself and how I am with others, and the word in general. We can see the old memories and how the script was built, and how now with our current event we are still supporting the script, and also the other parts where there is a part in the script system where we can fill in about the relational needs that are met and are not met, and also about emotions, so the authentic emotions, and maybe what emotions are not allowed, so in I would say the life or the feelings of the person. So yes, I really like, because it's dense with informations.
Yeah, it's a very good visual to think about all the aspects we are talking now about, and to help the client to see or to understand better what he or she needs, which would be repressed relational needs and emotions. Yeah. And you mentioned already some of the principles, like being non-judgmental, and also to taking into account different human experiences, like physiology, emotional, cognitive, so different aspects of us are taken into account in this approach. What else would you say that were important from his theory?
Maybe what I like, and it's also in this visual, is methods of psychotherapy. So I like them because sometimes, especially when we have a student, or I say young psychotherapy, sometimes you don't know where to go, what to ask, and so on. And I think these methods of psychotherapy are a big help and support for each person to actually think. For example, what I need to inquire, what level. We have different, I would say, topic of inquiry about how I can be involved in the process of a client. How can I, for example, validate a client? How can I normalize the process? And some, also because in TA we know that, and we use a very known concept of transaction. We have the social level, and then we have the psychological level. One thing is what we say with the words, but another thing is what we say with our tone of voice, our rhythm, and so on. And this is also, you can find that part here in the methods. And then, of course, the attunement, what I just said, the rhythm. For example, how if I'm talking very fast, will have a different impact to the client if I, for example, take my time, speak slowly, and so on. So I think it's again a good visual and actually a good map how to, I would say, yes, support ourselves in the work with clients.
Yeah, I like your thinking. It can be a very simple visual, not necessarily methods, but visual, and yeah, it can be useful for students to remind themselves the options they actually do have in the work with the client.
I'm thinking about other maybe things. We just mentioned in this respect for other people. I think that this is some time where people might struggle, in the sense I respect other people and value other people, but sometimes we might come across, for example, abusive people, or very heavy trauma. So sometimes it's a challenge also to feel respect towards these abusive people. So I think what was this concept, and very similar as TA, and what was Bern saying, that we respect the life and the value and actually the core of each person, and of course not necessarily their actions. So I think this is also a difference, and yeah, important.
Yes, yes, it's very, very important. And you also earlier said that they are thinking about the problems or symptomatology in a different way, not putting so much emphasis on a psychopathology and symptoms from the psychopathology, but putting it in the relationship. So keep finding ways how to understand relationship, how to work in the relationship, and how to care the relationship. What you said just now, the respect uh, to different ways of doing things.
Yeah. But I would like to point out that maybe integrative TA, it's 1.5 approach, or you can also have it 2 person approach, depending also if they work more relational or not. So they are putting, or we are putting a lot of this, how we are together, how it's a client with me and so on. And some, of course, working really relational, so that are a lot of using also our contra transference in the relationship with the client and sharing ourselves. So this is, I would say, 1.5 or 2 person approach.
Okay, yeah, that's very important because 1.5 approach is coming from the place that the therapist is more like a mirror. So you have a repressed need. I will recognize it as a therapist and give it back to you in a way, like reflect back. While in two-type person psychology, the client has opportunity to also hear how the client affects a therapist as a person through the countertransferences.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is, in my experience, you can find practitioner in integrative that are using both approaches, so 1.5 and 2.
And I think they started from maybe more 1.5 because
Yes.
Gestalt is also more like on that side, 1.5. And now maybe since the relational needs is emerging more and more and clearly stated that the transference, countertransference relationship is also important, then they bring it those. And let's see now the criticism. What are the main criticism to the integrative TA approach?
Yes. That sometimes it can be infantilized, so it means that we are going like in the regression and so on, and that we might, I would say, work with a client not from as an adult, but as almost like a small child. And so this is a problem, especially because sometimes we might not support the growing part, the adult part, the taking responsibility. So it might be this approach where often or sometimes some people might really engage the child ego state of the client, sometimes a little bit too much. So I think also that criticize what maybe I see a little bit is also that it's not a lot of new things. It's a lot of driven from already from TA, from other approach. And yes, I think partially it's also what this is why it's integrating other approaches. But at the same time, I feel the value. So yeah. Do you
Yeah,
find
yeah,
other?
maybe that's my also question, like what are they integrating which is different until that moment in time. And they did offer many new things, or maybe more polished in
Yes,
a way,
yes, yes.
theory like a script system, juxtaposition, relational needs. And yeah, one of the criticism is how new is it really, or is it rewritten in a new way? Edit some smaller bits of it. And one last criticism that actually Mark Widdowson put it in his book, which is all this visual from, is about the empathy and using empathy possibly too much, or in a way that the client becomes idealizing the therapist, inviting in symbiotic relationship more than adult-adult relationship. So that can also be a problem for the client to reach out the psychotherapy change.
Yeah. I agree with that criticism. I would maybe add a little bit even more on that, in the sense that sometimes this empathy, it might be problematic, especially when we see a client that is an abusive relationship, when it's the victim. Because this empathy sometimes, in that, I would say, yes, extreme cases, or when safety it's problematic, it's not always a good approach. Sometimes I think it's better to be direct, or sometimes it's better, to not be so empathic to a client, to their feelings. But sometimes it's important to engage more the adult, and I would say a more potent part. So this is also where I see sometimes the struggle.
I will finish now sharing this visual and invite you maybe to, because it sounds like nicely a way to go into the comparison to other TA approaches, maybe beginning with classical TA, where confrontation was one of the important way of doing the therapy.
Yeah. I think that here we use less confrontation, or it's very, I would say, gentle. It's more about empathy, understanding the client, giving options to fulfill their relational needs. Because confrontation, sometimes it might be quite harsh. So it's a method or a technique or intervention that it's less used.
Would you say some other differences there are between classical and integrative TA, or any other TA approach?
Yes, maybe the classical I see more cognitive. This is a lot about feeling, relationship, this, I would say, child ego state more than the adult. This is also, yeah.
Yeah, and in catexis we have focus on parent ego state. And then I was thinking also, while we were talking about redecision theory and integrative, since Gouldings were also trained in Gestalt, and they also added a lot of their knowledge and skills from TA, from Gestalt to TA, which I think something similar happened to Erskine. Would you point out, if you have any ideas, what would be the differences or similarities between those two approaches?
I find it I find it quite different, actually. I see elements of Gestalt in both. That's definitely there, but I don't see the integrative TA working so much on these decisions as so clearly, maybe, as is redecision doing. I think they are more in that part recognizes, yes, also the old decision, but then it's almost like more gently, more slow, more empathic than redecision that can be much more, I think, in one way, direct, working with this decision than the integrative. And I think this is also one of the reasons why integrative can be quite long.
And I'm also thinking, so Gouldings were working with Byrne, and they started quite early in TA development. So Byrne was focused more on a cognitive. They were somewhat focused on emotions, but also, yeah, as you said, decisions in that they saw developmentally in child ego state. But decisions are also a cognitive aspect of our maybe emotional experience. And Erskine, how I find it, he added this emotion, yeah, emotional stance from the relationship between the primarily mother and the child, or parent and the child, and yeah, how that affects. So somehow I see the shift
Mm.
to that part.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, and it probably was also connected with the time, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense Bern was after the Second World War and also after, but it was like they need to a quick fix. You couldn't have there was a lot of trauma because of the war and so on, and they need more quick
Yeah.
therapy. And I think now we have also this luxury of having more time and process for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years if we need it.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if you have idea the differences and similarities to the relational psychodynamic TA approach comparison to the integrative.
Yeah, I actually don't know a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, as I said, because of the evolving of the integrative TA, it's also that part that is starting to be more and more relational.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the relational psychodynamic, it's more going back to these psychodynamic approaches, as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe T integrative is still a lot in the all this script TA, really rooted in this TA concept. So,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, I think that the way how we work, it might be very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also thinking that there are many similarities in the
Yeah,
practice,
yeah.
maybe some differences in theory,
Mm,
but I think some aspects are very, very similar. Like I
mm,
think both approaches put a lot of emphasis on working within the three model of ego states and the
mm.
child ego state in that model,
Yeah.
and offering a lot of possibilities for a client to explore these wounds from an
Mm,
early stage in life.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, but I probably would need to have, more knowledge to do
Yeah,
a, more thorough comparison.
yeah. Well, we learn every day something new.
Exactly.
Okay, Maya. I think I came to an end in my
Mm,
thinking how to guide this conversation. Would you add something for the end?
mm. Not, I think that we cover everything. So, yeah.
Okay, so thank you once again for doing this for our students. And yeah, looking forward to meet you at some other
Mm.
moment in time.
Yes, me too. So, thank you as well for inviting me.